Here we are with the next I Will Never Forgive You podcast episode. This is episode 13. I'm actually going to be doing a lot of not forgiving over the next, I'd say, 9 days. Because I'm so late on this one. So I'm recording this Saturday morning. It was supposed to come out on Wednesday. But this means a week from now, I'm going to actually start doing the Q&A for the next episode, episode 14. Which means a couple days after that, I'm going to be recording episode 14. And I have committed myself this week, because I actually have all next week, starting Monday. I have like 4 to 5 straight days just by myself again. I'm going to get a hell of a lot more done again, just like I did last time this happened. Man, this has been a brutal couple months, but next week's looking really good. I'm wide open. Like, I'm not going anywhere. I have no obligations. My roommate's getting married. I'm the best man at the wedding tomorrow. I'm doing a rehearsal dinner today. So I'm going to be best man at the wedding, doing a toast, where I got my toast memorized. But that means that I get the place to myself because, honeymoon, right? So, hey, win-win. He wins, I win. I get to eat reception food, come back and work for 5 straight days. But I'm committed to doing the bonus episode this week on Patreon, Tier 3. This is my promotion, I guess. I will record an extra episode that's going to follow the exact same format. It'll be about anime and everything, and the only thing we'll have is a Q&A. So what I would probably do in that case, like if I do it like this past week, I would definitely have used a bonus episode because I just didn't have time, man. I did not have time. But I'll always have time to do the Q&A. That's fairly quick and easy. But this, I don't want to just phone this in. Like, I have to think about this. I have to have a cogent argument, a cogent conversation about, the main topic and these other things. Like, well, what is a hot take? Like, is this something I actually give a shit about? Is this something I think anybody else will give a shit about? What is my favorite anime episode of the last 2 weeks? All these things, right? Like, I want to put time and effort and energy into this. I could have done this last Monday if I just wanted to phone it in, but I don't want to do that. But I'm going to have a bonus episode so the next time this happens, which I'm sure will be in October, because October is going to be another brutal month. The next time this happens, I'll be ready. I can just slide that bonus episode. The Q&A will be fresh, but the bonus episode will be pre-recorded. So I'm doing that this week. So that'll be a really good perk you can get. I still have to do, I've got 11 days left to do the special video for this month. That'll happen next week. Like I said, I've got all day, all next week. So that's going to be awesome. I can't wait. I'm really excited. Just about 36 hours from now, my watch begins for a full week. Because the wedding's at like 1:30 or something. So typically, this is only going to be the 3rd wedding I've ever been to in my life. Typically, these things run about 5 hours, counting the reception. So, anyway, that's going to happen this week. So, I'm doing the bonus episode. But my point, though, is I'm doing a lot of I Will Never Forgive You over the next 7 to 10 days. Because I'm doing this late, I'm doing bonus, and then I'm doing the next one, right? And like, with all that spare time I got next week, I'll be able to get that in there. So my mind is really heavy into the podcast right now. And I like it. People have been asking, like, where's the podcast? So I think people are excited about this. They like it. It's different. It's not just reaction content, because sometimes reaction content can feel a little low effort. But really, it's because this is the first time you're watching a thing, right? Like, the first time you experience something, this is really about the big moments. That's why Game of Thrones is such a great series to be reacted to. It is a terrible series to analyze or do essays on or review. Like, what a lot of times, like, a new episode of Silo come out with a review, and a couple hours later, here's what we thought. We watched it. You didn't see the reaction. We watched it a couple times. We talked about it. Now these are our thoughts, right? These are organized thoughts. Later seasons of Game of Thrones was just all big moments. All, ooh, wow, holy shit, I can't believe Jaime's charging the dragon, right? Big moments, but none of it makes any damn sense. Or very little sense, anyway. So, if you're going to review it, if you're going to analyze it, if you're going to critique it, it's not going to be a very good time. But it's a very good time for reactions. But a lot of the shit that I watch is actually the opposite. It's really hard to critique it and analyze it and do an essay on it, having just watched it once. But and some of these anime may not necessarily be great big moments for reactions. The jokes are always good for the reactions, And the fights are, ooh, bang, bang, you know, the fights are always good for reactions. But fights can be repetitive. What can you say after the 50th fight? Somebody criticized me today in a comment. I keep saying get wrecked. Like, that's the only thing I say. I do say that a lot. But, like, how many different things can you say during a fight, really? You know, like, something like, it was a Yu episode. And Yu has at least one fight every single episode. This was episode 95. So we've seen 95 fights. We probably have seen, actually, in Yu, over 100 fights, like 120 fights. And they're shooting energy blasts at each other. They're talking shit. And then they shoot more energy blasts at each other. And then every now and then somebody pull a rose bush out of their ass or something. Now, there are interesting, like, there is variation in Yu. It's not just punch, you know. Or zap, 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 zap. There is some variation. There's, hey, let me pull this rose bush out of my ass. Or, let me, I planted this on you earlier, and now you're turning to stone or something. Like, there is that. And there's also that with, like, Naruto and Boruto, for instance. And One Piece has people with random-ass powers that can attack in different ways. But there is a lot of repetition to this. There is. So there's only so much you can say in a reaction during the 150th fight of this series, right? What are you going to say here? Like, you're going to come up, okay, let me break out my thesaurus. Proceed to be demolished. I mean, I can do that. But why should I be original when the fights are repetitive? I'm not angry about the comment. I think it's a valid criticism. You know, I do try to scout myself, and I try to not be super repetitive. Running gags, I try to, tone down. Certain catchphrases I'm in love with, I try to minimize. Nobody's perfect. But it did occur to me when I saw the comment, I was like, well, if the fight's repetitive, why can't I be repetitive, I remember one time, I was talking to a friend, and she told me a story about something that happened to her with some guy, right? And I made a joke. And then 3 days later, she told me the exact same story again. So I made the same joke again. And she said, that's the same thing you said last time. And I said, well, you told me the same story again. And then she got really mad. We didn't talk for a couple of days. Hey, man, why are you allowed to be repetitive, but I'm not, But no, it brought to mind, it's like, reactions, I think, are only half the picture of somebody with my experience and skill set, right? Like, I'm in filmmaking, I'm a writer. And this is not a knock on any other reaction channel out there. There are other filmmakers there who have done a hell of a lot more than me that are, the Filmmaker Reacts, I think. I can't remember what his specific channel name is, but I think it may just be Filmmaker Reacts. He's done a hell of a lot more than me. Neil Talks has done a hell of a lot more than me. So I'm not saying I'm the expert. I'm just saying I have a skill set that, say, a married couple, who are accountants or whatever, may not be able to bring to a reaction channel. Like writing, especially the writing point of view, right? You can see things. You see the architecture of the storytelling. You've done it. Having been on both sides of this, having produced content, and now reacting to content, I feel like I have more to say. So for me, I think reactions are only half the picture. That's why I love the podcast. That's why I'm never going to stop doing the podcast. I may be late sometimes, and I am this time, but the fact that it got me thinking about this, the fact that I'm going to be doing basically 3 episodes of the podcast over the next 9 or 10 days, that's a lot. Usually I do one every 2 weeks, right? So I've been thinking about the podcast, and I think that, what I really like about it is it gives me time to take a breath and to analyze things, which I don't typically do on my channel. And I don't think every anime deserves analysis. I think some anime are, ooh, bang, bang, smish, smash, ooh, here's another fight, right? Here, I'm going to take a shot at Yu. I don't think that's a show that deserves analysis. I think it's just a fun ride. It's a lot of fun. I'm going to defend Yu later. Like, during my hot take, I will actually mount a very spirited defense of Yu. So, lest you get mad right now. But right now, I'm going to say that it's a fun ride, but I don't know if there's necessarily anything deep happening here. There's not a deep analysis going on. It's just, we're supposed to have fun. And isn't that the point? Are you not entertained? I've mentioned this recently in a reaction, like with Gladiator. Are you not entertained? Isn't that the goddamn point? Like, we're trying to distract ourselves from this sorry ass world. You know, our life sucks. The world sucks. You know, everything's going to shit. We have the existential dread of, our impending doom, We're all born to die. Now the scientists have come out. There's a second study coming out from what I talked about before. They have more proof, and they definitely believe that there is consciousness for hours after brain death. Like this is becoming definitive at this point. Like there's mounting research on this. Like our brains are active after complete and total brain death. Brains are struggling to try to hold on to this consciousness for as long as we can. And you know what happens in the dream state? What is hours out here feels like days, weeks, or months in the brain. So we have consciousness for months, according to our perception, after we die. Some kind of fantasy realm. We have some kind of fantasy life created by our brains trying to, as we claw and try to struggle and hold on to this consciousness for as long as possible. At first, like last year when I first saw this study, I thought that this was a great thing. Like, here, we get some afterlife, But I've had some dreams recently where it's like they were really jumbled and confused and just didn't make any damn sense. I couldn't get out of them, and it was really kind of terrifying. And I'm like, well, what if that's what this is? Because the brain isn't functioning anymore. So what is actually happening here? Like, how much cognition do you actually have? Like, are you aware of yourself? Or are you just kind of like in these dreams where you're just kind of there and things are happening, but you can't think? In these dreams, I can't think. These things are just kind of washing over me, but I'm like frozen in amber, right? I can't move. I can't think. These experiences are washing past me. It's not the kind of dreams I like where you're moving around and talking and there's a narrative. If there's a narrative, if I just suddenly wake up and I'm in this room, but I'm dead, but I get to hang out for another couple months in here and do things and not know I'm dead and feel like I'm alive, hey, I get a couple extra months. Like, I can roll with that. I love that. If I'm frozen in amber and I can't really think and things are just washing over me and that happens for months, that feels like hell to me. I don't know. We won't know until we find out, right? But I'm not as excited about this research as I was last year when it first came out, because I've had more time to think about it. And so we have that to look forward to. So what we're looking for in life is distractions, entertainment. I've had a shitty day. Let me have fun for a couple hours. So there is value to that. Like, just let's have fun. Not everything has to be a deep, meaningful, study of the human condition and life and the existential horror of our existences, right? Not everything has to be that. Maybe we just want to have fun. That's what I feel like reaction channels are. We just want to hang out and have fun. And I don't think that it's parasocial specifically, but a lot of these reaction channels feel like friends to me. Like, we see them every week. You see them a couple times a week. You laugh, you joke. They don't know I exist, but I'm having fun and I'm hanging out with them, and it feels like friends. You got to keep it grounded, right? I don't actually think they're my friends, but it feels that way, right? Like, so you just get the comfort of the companionship, of the hanging out part of the companionship, not the talking and, hey, here's what happened today. What's your advice? You don't get the back and forth, but you get the hanging out part of the friendship, which is maybe the best part of friendship. Just sitting on the couch together watching something, So that's what a reaction channel is, and that's what it's supposed to be, I think. Just, we're just trying to have fun here. It's not that deep, right? So it's okay to be a little repetitive in your commentary. I try not to, but I feel like it's justified if the fights are repetitive. But having put a button on that, there are some anime that are deeper and that do deserve a deeper analysis, and that's where the podcast comes in. And that's why I want to continue doing it. That's why I will continue doing it. The views have been fairly decent. The response, the feedback, the interaction has been really good. So that's all encouraging. And I'm in it for the long haul because I do think there are some things that deserve deeper analysis. So with that in mind, let's go and get into it. This is a pretty long preamble, but and I guess we'll consider that a promotion. You know the drill. Tier 3, grab an extra podcast. I promise for sure, pinky swear this time it's going to happen within the next 7 days. I'm committed to it because I can't do another one of these when I'm late, 3 days late. It's very annoying to me, right? I know people don't think I give a shit, But I care that I'm late about things. Whatever it is I'm late with. I care deeply. But also I know there's nothing I can do. Because I'm there. I'm experiencing the situation moment to moment. There was no way to get this done any sooner than right now. Considering what's happened in my life this week, I'm prepping for a wedding and doing side hustles and catching up on other shit. There was just no way to do it any earlier than this. So I'm not, like rending my garments or in a corner crying about how I'm a failure. It is what it is. It takes how long it takes. But I do care, right? And so that's why I'm going to put in the effort to do it extra to just slide that in there next time this happens, which will probably be October. So, that's the promotion. Buy my shit, I guess is what I'm saying. Speaking of deeper analysis, anime episode highlight this week is going to be 7 Deadly Sins, episode 418. Now, I watched 4 in a row. I believe the one I'm talking about is 418. I could be wrong. It could be like 419. I believe it's 418. It's the one where they do the backstory of Escanar, Pride. He's one of my favorite characters in that series. And it's one of those where it's like, there's 2 ways to do a heroic sacrifice for a character. And, where you're getting spoilers. Jump ahead if you're going to be watching 7 Deadly Sins at some point. Pride's going to die. And they set it up, and you've kind of known it for a little while that he's going to die, but they specifically set it up in the previous episode. And then in this episode, he's set up for a heroic sacrifice. Now, there's 2 ways you can do that. You can do a heroic sacrifice where we're standing here, the 3 of us are standing here, and somebody has to go over there and turn off that device. But when they turn off that device, they get blown up. They're just disintegrated. They are dead as hell. Somebody's got to do it. It's between the 3 of us. So we're all standing there, we're looking at each other. Well, you have a young wife. You have a kid. I'm sitting here. I don't have a wife or kid. I'm old. I'm fat. I guess I'll be the one to go over there and do it. So I start to go over there and do it. And then one of them stops me and they're like, no, you're the best fighter. You're our tactician. Like, we can't lose you. I'm going to have to do it. I'm like, pushing back. No. You're going to have to pick up the reins as far as the strategy goes because I'm not turning your wife into a widow when I have another choice. So I push you back. I run over there and I turn it off real quick and get disintegrated. Right? We saw this in Endgame. No, actually, Endgame was the second version. We saw this in Infinity War because there's it's really more. It wasn't really a heroic sacrifice in Infinity War. I don't want to get lost in the weeds of definitions here, but like it was out of the blue, is what I'm trying to say. Like we don't know it's going to come. We may know that there may be a sacrifice required. We're not sure who it's going to be, but. Yeah, I guess actually no. Endgame I think does qualify because we weren't actually sure until somebody went over the edge in Infinity War. They were fighting each other about who it would be, right? We weren't entirely sure which one it was going to be. So, yeah, it's actually this type. It's out of the blue type. You know a sacrifice has to be made. You don't know who it's going to be, and then suddenly here somebody sacrifices. It's out of the blue. So you have the out of the blue heroic sacrifice. Look, I don't have any time. I just got to do this. Let me jump on this grenade. I have 2 seconds to think about it. I'm jumping on the grenade to save everybody else in the room. So, there's that kind. Then, there is the kind where it's dragged out, it's foreshadowed, it's laid out. We know this person's going to sacrifice for us, and we know it for a while. We have time to sit with it. We have time to settle with it. There's a whole episode devoted to it. There's foreshadowing and talking about it beforehand. Then there's the actual deed itself finally. And maybe there's a little bit of doubt, hey, will he actually have to actually do this or not? This is the kind where the 3 of us are standing there and the machine has to be turned off, but there's a 4th person and he has cancer and he's going to die in 2 days anyway. And he's just been saying, well, I'm going to, instead of being in bed, he's with us. I'm going to keep doing this till the end. I'm just waiting for an opportunity to... If somebody has to pay the ultimate sacrifice, I'm here for it, right? And we reach this room, and we have to get through this room, and the machine has to be turned off. So, he's dying of cancer. He had a whole episode talking about his whole life and, all that shit. So, then he goes over there, he turns off, and he dies, right? That's the second kind. That's the kind it was in 7 Deadly Sins. We knew it was going to happen. We just didn't know when. And it mattered, and it made a difference, and he saved the day. Now, he had help. It wasn't as clear-cut as just turning something off, and then the day is saved. There was more to it. But I like that kind because you have time to think about it, you have time to sit with it, and you have time to appreciate what's happening. And, there can be no doubt. Like, he had time to think about it, and there was no doubt, and this is what he wanted to do, right? So this is my favorite kind of sacrifice, heroic sacrifice. And I can see myself. I've always romanticized this. Like I've said this during reactions. I love the idea of the noble sacrifice. I can see myself doing it in the right circumstances. I don't know what those circumstances specifically would be, because typically, like, if you save somebody, you're also saving yourself. Like, somebody's in a lake and they're drowning. You jump in there and you save them. Bring them out. Like, you're not going to die in the process. You're not trading your life for theirs, right? But there could be, like, maybe a grenade throws in the room and we're shooting a film. I can see myself doing it. Just jump on it. I'm big. I'll be able to absorb the blast, right? So I've romanticized that all my life. I probably saw a movie where that happened really early on, and that kind of affected my brain, right? So I like this a lot. It really touched me. I got emotional. And Seven Deadly Sins is not really a show that makes me cry very much, and I did cry a little bit. I wasn't openly sobbing or anything, but, not that there's anything wrong with that. I have before. I just didn't this time. But it did make me cry. But it was a thing where it's like, you knew it was coming, and I think sometimes you get more emotional when you know it's coming, when you have a couple episodes to sit with it, and then it happens. It's really one of my favorite kind of stories, and I love it. And they spent the time with him, they showed him in the past and everything, and I love that. Also, Lost did it. A lot of shows do it where they do the flashbacks. Your ass gonna die. But here's your life first. Let's further appreciate you in a way we never have through the course of this series, because we didn't have all this context. Now we get it here at the end. And next time you watch this show, when you start seeing them, the character shows up and you start seeing them, they're hanging out and having fun, you get sad, right? Because you know it's coming, right? So, I really like that. And I like how they handled it. And like I said, Seven Deadly Sins, they lean a little too heavy into the comedy for me to be super emotional at times. Also, while the show has the best attack names I've ever seen, they have really great attack names. Divine Retribution. My God. Literally. God wants to punish you. That is a great attack name. Divine Retribution. It's just infinite sorrow, right? These are some great ass attack names. While they do, the power scale of these characters is so immense, you can't really relate to them, right? Like, we got people punching mountains and it's just obliterating entire landscapes, and just their power is so immense, we just can't relate to it. We can't grasp it. It's why I have very little interest in watching Dragon Ball. I don't care about characters who can eat the sun and punch moons and just... There's a point where you're just too powerful. It's just not interesting anymore, Especially when there's more than one of them, they're fighting each other, and it's like, Supernatural had a thing where it's like, if the devil, Lucifer, and Michael, the God's favorite son, fought each other, they would obliterate half of Earth. Like, it would literally, half of the Earth would be scorched, and all the 3 billion people would die if they fought. So they're trying to prevent them from fighting each other because they have so much power. One of them would eventually win, probably Michael, but he would burn up half the Earth to do it. So the cost was too high. So once we start talking about characters that powerful, it's like, it just doesn't mean anything anymore, right? And so I think the anime has a power scaling problem. This will probably be a hot take at some point, or maybe even a main topic. But we won't truly delve into that right now. But for me, you get enough characters, and there are enough in this one where they're just like super extra, super duper powerful. It's just it's meaningless at that point. So it's a good series. Don't get me wrong. I love it. I love the characters. It's a lot of fun. I've really loved the sense of humor. But it's hard to get emotional in this show because of what I said. The characters are hard to relate to. So when the show does get you emotional, you know that they've done something really special. So yeah, that's the anime episode highlight for this 3 weeks. And then I'll have another one in a week. And then another one for the special. But, all right, we can get to the main topic now. I can fix her. Now we're on to the main topic. I can fix her. Now, I say specifically I can fix her. It could be I can fix him. I think that mainly would apply to gay men. I don't know that there's any women out there. I'm sure there's an exception, but we're talking about above something has to be above 1% for it to matter, as far as I'm concerned. I think there's less than 1% of the women out there that want to fix a dangerous man, fix an evil man. I just don't think that's a thing. You know, like maybe girls like bad boys in high school, but how much trouble you get in high school? Probably not much, most people. But I don't think there's any, there's no mug him. There's mug shanties. We'll get to that in a minute, which is an Instagram where they comb through all the mug shots. Mug shots are public record. They comb through them all, find the hotties, post them, and post what their crimes are. And, there's nothing like that for women to look at men, right? So I don't think women are out there trying to fix men. I don't know that there's female anime fans that are obsessed with the bad boys, the truly bad boys. Now, that's a little bit more difficult, a little bit more complicated nuance. We'll get that in a second. So, but specifically what I'm talking about here, I think this is a male-dominated area. This is a male thing. Now, gay men, bisexual men, whatever, probably will try to fix men, but, the heterosexual men are going to try to fix the women, and so I think it's a male thing. I think it's a male gaze thing. I think it's a male delusion thing. I think men feel invincible. They don't feel the danger of this person and what they will do to you. There's no greater risk of getting on somebody's bad side than dating them. Like, nobody can piss you off like somebody you know. A stranger does something and somebody you know does something, it's the exact same thing, you're going to be more pissed at somebody you know. So, you want to get closer to this dangerous person who might beat the dog shit out of you or worse. You want to get closer to him because you feel invincible. That's a male thing. I don't think women feel invincible, typically. I think women feel the danger emanating from this psycho whack job, right? Men don't. Men are like, yeah, that other guy was an idiot. I can fix her. So, that's why I phrase it this way. I think this is a male thing. I could be wrong. If you're a woman and you're obsessed with fixing him or her, whatever your orientation is, then let me know in the comments. Of course, if you're a woman into women, then this still applies to you. I can fix her. I know we're talking about a variety of demographics here, but specifically, I do think, I could be wrong. I'm always open to being wrong, but I do think this is a male thing. Now, off the top, I want to know, everybody who watches this, and I'm not trying to farm comments. I'm genuinely curious. I need to know, yes or no. Tell me, you can just say yes or no. That's all you have to say. You don't like leaving comments, just say yes or no, and we'll know what you mean. You can elaborate. I would love for you to elaborate, but bare minimum, just say yes or no. Have you ever, in real life, seen somebody who is a whack job, who's a criminal, who's bad in some way, clearly, not you found out later, like off the rip, off the top, the first time you meet them, you know they're bad news? Have you ever had the impulse, I can fix this person? Like, I want to get to know this person. Have you ever had that impulse? I'm very curious. Just give me a yes or no. Now, fiction is a little different. Fiction has a nuance because, here's the thing, like we talked about this before with main characters. This is a companion subject. It's kind of why I wanted to do it similarly close to the main character conversation. In fiction, the bad guys are always more interesting. They have more going on. They have better lines. They have no limits. They're cooler. They dress cooler. They have cooler names. They have cooler powers. You never know what the hell they're going to do. There's constant suspense when they're on the screen. So they're infinitely more interesting. So by their very nature, villains are going to be more compelling and more interesting because it's fiction, right? Real life, we want a boring existence. We don't want an exciting existence. Excitement in real life is bad. We want boring. We want what we expect. We want what we expect to happen. In fiction, we want the exact opposite. We want what we don't expect to happen. So, the poll I ran. Would you risk it all to try to fix? Himiko Togo won the poll with 37%. She's from My Hero Academia. She's the blood bitch. And here's another thing that happens in fiction, which we don't get in real life. And I don't think we should care in real life because we all got sob stories. We all come from a bad past. Most people who come from a bad past don't do bad things. It's not an excuse. It's a reason. It's not an excuse. There are reasons. And we can factor those reasons in as mitigating circumstances. But they're not excuses. So we don't want to hear your damn sob stories for why you killed 27 people. So, but she does have the sob story. She's got a very tragic backstory. I think that's why a lot of people like her. Then she's cute. That's why a lot of people like her. She has a great voiceover actress. That's why a lot of people like her. English. Look, I watch this in English. So specifically, those are the reasons why people like her, I think. Because her power is disgusting. The whole sucking blood thing is disgusting. Other than that, if we can get beyond the sucking blood, which I can't, then she can become whoever she sucks the blood of. So that's interesting. That's an interesting component. I don't get her obsession with Midoriya, but that's kind of interesting. And I think she just desperately wants companionship. And so we feel like all she wants is a friend. Just go be her friend. But imagine that, but every day. That's the thing. With two people right off in the sunset, they have to, the next day, the sun rises the next day. Yeah, it's setting right now as you jump in a car, you just pulled her out of her wedding, you jump in the car and you're driving away and the camera stays on you, and all of a sudden you look at the horror of what you've done. What are we going to do tomorrow? The sun rises tomorrow. What are they going to do? They just alienated everybody that they know. I don't specifically remember the movie very well, but there's a comedian who talked about the closer to a wedding that you cancel the wedding, the more of a dickhead you are. The more people will hate you. You cancel a wedding 6 months ahead of time, people are like, well, I guess it just wasn't going to work out. It's probably for the best. You cancel a wedding a week before the service, that's bad. People have already made reservations. People have already sent gifts. People already spent money on this wedding. Deposits have been made. You're a dick. You canceled the day of the wedding. We're there. We took the trouble to get dressed. And this is relevant to me because I'm going to a stupid wedding tomorrow. He's my best friend. He's not stupid. Weddings are stupid. But you canceled the day of after we went through all this trouble. Not only are you the biggest dickhead in the world because you did it the last minute, she was thinking she was getting ready to get married. I'm specifically saying a guy does it, right? That's what the comedian was a guy, so he's talking from the male point of view. But she's like all ready, but also every guest there went through the trouble of coming there and getting dressed up for your ass. And then you cancel right then and there. Nobody will ever speak to you again. And the comedian says, you are completely free. You're a completely free person with no responsibilities, no entanglements. You'll never have another conversation with another living human being unless you make new friends. They all hate you. So, the fact that they did that in that movie, the day of, they are completely free. They have no friends. They have no relationships, no business contacts, nothing. Everybody in the world hates them. People who never met them hate them. You did that shit, man. The Runaway Bride, I guess, was supposed to be a optimistic movie. I don't remember. I saw it. I just don't remember it. Literally, I sat through that entire movie. The only thing I remember is that she ran away. That's it. I don't remember a damn thing that happened to her. I don't remember if she got back with the dude. I don't remember if she ever had consequences for her actions. I don't remember. Like, I saw it, but I don't remember. The sun rises the next day. So, yes, Togo, I'll call her Togo. I can't pronounce her first name. Togo just wants companionship. She just wants a friend. But what about 2 days from now? Now that she has companionship, we always want something else. So, like, all we want is a job. Like, that's all we've been working for our entire life. We want a job. Oh, we've got a job? Okay, now we need a house. That's all we want is we need a house. Oh, we got a house? Okay, now we need a car. All we want is a car. Like, when you get what you need, you realize you need something else. That's the way the human experience is. If you don't want or need anything, you might as well crawl in a hole and die. Because there's no passion, there's nothing, there's no motivating factor left in your life. If you have nothing you want or need, it's the human experience. She's going to want something else. She's going to want more. She's going to want more of your time. She's going to want all of your time. She's going to want more love. And she's going to realize that the hole in her life was not the lack of companionship. There was a hole there that can't be filled by other people. She has to fill it herself. Therapy. Get your crazy, blood-sucking ass into a effing therapist's office now. You whack job. Look, I believe anybody can be redeemed. Almost anybody. But your ass needs to want to. You need to want redemption. You need to work towards it. You need to make a commitment to yourself. Whatever the problem is, you direct your attention to that and you make that commitment. get your ass in therapy, is what I'm saying. And so that is what's going to fill the hole. You can't fix her. You can't fill that hole because that hole is not created by a human being. It may have been created by people, but it can't be repaired by the people. It has to be repaired by her and a therapist. Or sometimes, occasionally, people can figure out how to repair it on their own if the therapist isn't available. Therapist just helps you. It's a speed run. A therapist can take what would take you 20 years to sort out. They can do it in 2 years. That's the biggest benefit of a therapist. They've done this before. They know the tools. Okay, here's the 17 different ways in life people have solved this issue. Try one of them. That didn't work. Okay, here's another one. Let's speed run this shit. You don't have to do the trial and error on your own, man. Like, you don't have to be scrutinizing this shit on your own. We got an expert over here. They can help you. You can speed run this process. You can't fix her. Unless you can convince her to get her ass in therapy, you can't fix her. That'll fix her. Convincing her to get her blood-sucking ass in therapy. That's the question, right? People don't think about that. They just see the surface need. The surface need is, I want companionship. I've never had a friend. I'm lonely. I want to be loved. It's like, well, I like loving people. I can love people. I'll love her. She's very lovable, adorable. I have that. Look, I'm talking to myself, too, because I have this problem. I got married trying to fix somebody. Multiple personalities, heavily abused by her family, still being abused by her family. When I met her, she was 30 years old, still being abused by her family. I'm like, let me put on my white knight armor, get on my horse with my lance, and let me charge down there and solve this issue. I got the family away from her. That only took one conversation. They never bothered her again. Because, the whole thing was she was helpless. She couldn't remember when they would take advantage of her. Like, because the alters would take that memory away, right? Like, they would abuse her, take her money. That was one of the big things. They were taking a lot of her money. And there was no way to know because there's no human being around with a memory. Like, a person with dissociative identity disorder can't go into court and testify because they are not a reliable witness because they have memory issues. They have other personalities. No judge or jury is going to find that credible evidence. I didn't have that issue. I can testify. And I'm around. So they had to stop. And I felt like a superhero. Here I am, making up for the sins of my youth. I was an asshole as a teenager. Hurt a lot of feelings, hurt a lot of people. Got in a lot of stupid ass fights. Which in the process hurt people. So I made a commitment to myself. Without therapy back then. Eventually got into therapy. I wasn't going to be violent anymore. I haven't been violent in 30 years. So, like I said, you got to make a commitment. But the other part of that was, hey, I want to be the knight in shining armor. I want to fix people. I want to solve people's problems. Specifically women. Sexism coming out. Although I've in times of my life, helped men too. So, or even women I wasn't attracted to. But in this particular case, you had everything. You had romantic interest, infinite need. She had physical needs. She had emotional needs. She had safety needs. She was needy as hell, needed everything. And these were some of these issues I could solve immediately just by my presence. I'm the white knight. I'm going to rush at her. I never loved her. I loved the idea of saving her, and I got married. And once I realized in the marriage that I never loved her, didn't love her, I just loved saving her, I realized I was a dumbass. And so got a divorce, right? And we have an amicable relationship ever since. We don't really talk much anymore, but, there's no animosity there. It's just, I left her better than I found her. She was a lot better off after, the marriage was over than when I found her, because she was in really bad shape back then. But it was dumb as hell to think I could fix her. So, I personally have gone through this in real life. Now, this was a different kind of I can fix her. What we're specifically talking about here, we're not talking about the damsel in distress, you can fix her. This is an innocent who doesn't hurt people, who doesn't have psychotic, violent tendencies or any of this other weird shit that can endanger you specifically and other people. Dude, we're talking about damsel in distress. Yeah, fix them all you want to, man. Rush in there. That's a noble cause. Because they're victims. They're damsels in distress, right? They need a savior in many cases. Do what you can to help, right? That's fine. What we're talking about here, we're talking about the whack jobs. We're talking about the dangerous ones. We're talking about you're going to wake up with your head cut off. like I said, we're talking about the scary whack jobs. So I know the impulse, but the problem is that you got tomorrow, the next day, and like what you can do is you can make them feel really good for a couple days. But then what happens when they realize that you can't fill that hole in their life? They're gonna blame you, and you're gonna wake up on fire, or your skin ripped off, or your blood all sucked out, or whatever, whatever their kink is. Your ass is in trouble, So don't do it. But back to the fiction aspect of this. Fictional characters are interesting. They're plot devices first and foremost. They're not actual real three-dimensional people, but the well-written, well-rounded characters pretty much feel like three-dimensional people. They're really well done, and I think a lot of time is spent on villains, because if you don't have good villains, you don't have a good story. Check out Phase 1 and 2 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They had a big villain problem back in the day. There's only a couple good ones. And at first, the heroes and just the aspect of a shared universe, and some of these characters being depicted on the big screen for the first time with an actual budget, that was enough to get people through the movies. You could get through the Thor movie, the first Thor movie, because we've never really seen Thor on screen before. Okay, that's great, and we've got a great actor playing his father, but Thor 2 needs a good villain. It didn't have one, but it needs a good villain. And so you have to spend the time and energy crafting a good villain. So once you do that, you have a well-written, three-dimensional villain with a backstory you can relate to and understand, and motivations. It's like, okay, well, their motivations are good. The way they're doing this, maybe we shouldn't kill half the people in the effing universe. Maybe we shouldn't kill half the fucking people out there. You blue idiot, or whatever fucking color you are. Maybe that should be a thing. I probably did that too soon. My apologies, but I can't help it. I couldn't stop myself. But maybe we shouldn't. What color is purple? You purple moron, ball sack chinned moron. Maybe we shouldn't kill half the people. What do you think? But the inspiration, the motivation is good, right? So we're attracted to that. So then you get somebody like Thanos. Nobody's like thinking they can fix Thanos. He's pretty self-assured. He doesn't seem to want anything other than like what his goal is. These characters that are struggling more, they're villains, but they're struggling a lot more. They have a goal. Like, Toga's overall goal, I think, is to help serve, get rid of the establishment. I can't remember exactly. Like, help somebody get rid of the establishment. But she has a secondary goal of she's lonely. And she wants somebody to love. And that is the thing that can be addressed and we can latch onto as fans. I can fix her because she has the overall goal we're not necessarily on board with, but that secondary goal, it feels solvable. I'm a person. She wants a person in her life. So now she's fiction, so we can't hang out with her and spend time with her, but we theoretically could. And maybe we map her onto somebody we do know who's kind of like that. Like, so it feels attainable, even though it's not a real person, right? This is helping Thanos kill half the people in the universe doesn't feel attainable. Like, how would we do that? We don't have any magic stones. We don't even know if there is life in the universe. It's not attainable. Somebody being lonely, that's an attainable goal. That's something we can wrap our mind around. That feels real. So, I think that's the appeal of the fictional damaged characters. The other people, the other in the choices was Hisoka, the evil clown in Hunter x Hunter. He only got 4%. Somebody said he's perfect as he is. He doesn't need to be fixed. Eren, we've talked about him, 30%, and Makima from Chainsaw Man, 30%. Now, Eren is interesting that he got 30% of the vote. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are women that are like, I can fix him. Could be 30% of the people are just gay, dudes still, because I still think there's a predominant male aspect to this. Could be 30% of people watching me are gay men. You know, it's possible, but there must be a couple of babes out there who are like, they're in that vein. They think they can fix. Maybe it's Aaron specifically. Maybe they've never felt that way before or since. But Aaron specifically, they feel like they can fix him. Yeah, him all alone. He's not really evil, dude. He's evil. The hell you doing? You talk about therapy, man. He could have chose anything else. Maybe not literally anything, but there were a lot of other choices on the table. He didn't even think about it. He just let me stay on these railroad tracks to destruction. You dick. Didn't want to talk. Didn't want to have a conversation. Not trying to hash it out with anybody. I'm just doing it. That's probably the biggest thing that pissed me off. He never had a conversation with his friends about it. It was a fait accompli by the time he talked to him about it. F you. Work this out. Hash this out with your friends, you dick. Makima is just straight up evil. I don't know if we got any backstory from her. I'm a little surprised. I put her on there. I expected her to be in the Hizuka spot, where it's like the lowest one. You have a little assumptions when you make a list. You want a couple lightning rods for sure. And then you put a dark horse out there, which I thought was her. Because we never got any backstory. She may be pure evil from the moment she came out of the womb, man. Like, we don't know her sob story. So what are you sinking your teeth into here? Is it just that she's hot? She's got a really hot sounding voiceover actress? Probably. Power is hot. Authority is hot. Is that what it is? Or what is there to fix her? Because she doesn't seem to need anything. She's not like, missing a sibling and just, looks at it gives a sad look to the photo every now and then. What is she missing in her life? She seems pretty sorted out, right? So, I don't know. That's an interesting. Let me know, like, if you voted for her, what is it about her? Because I'm a little bit at a loss there. But, all right, well, let's go back to the real world for a minute, and then we'll go back to the fictional world to finish this topic up. Okay, this Instagram, this is an Instagram account called Mug Shanties. And if you don't know, Shanti just means hot woman. There may be more nuance to that, but I'm old, so that's what I get from it. And mugshots. They comb through mugshots. They find mugshots of hot women. Apparently, they've monetized it. They're putting them on T-shirts, which I think is a little disgusting. These are real people, and maybe they just had a bad episode. Like, I have a sense of humor. I think this is funny until you start making money off of it with T-shirts. Now, you are monetizing dark episodes in people's lives. Like, these people committed crimes, but they're not evil. Maybe they just had a bad day. Like, I think the one that's on the T-shirt, we can see here in the middle, it was she just had a DWI, like she was driving while intoxicated. She made a bad choice. She made a stupid choice. She could have got a lot of people killed. She didn't, but she's not robbing banks and shooting people in the face. And now you're making money off her face. I think that's wrong, personally. I don't think you monetize people's pain, but whatever, man. But other than that, like, I do have a sense of humor about this. Other than the monetization, we've got. They're finding mugshots of hot women and they're listing their crimes. So let's go through this, shall we? So she has 2 counts of attempt to assault causing bodily harm, 2 counts of disorderly conduct, and assault. Wow. Okay. This is a classic case. A lot of these are just driving while intoxicated, using cocaine, whatever, right? This one, she is trying to murk people, man. Like, she's trying to drop bodies. Now, they're not saying attempted murder. They are saying just assault. Attempted assault. So, she tried to assault 2 people. She has 2 counts of disorderly conduct, which is probably the same thing. She's in public. She tries to jump 2 people. And then there's also assault. So, she successfully assaulted 1 person. So, here's what I think happened. I don't know. This just top of my head. She's at the club. There's a woman on her man. She comes back, and there's some woman on her man. So she goes over there to clock the woman, to beat the woman's ass. The woman's friend, maybe 2 of the women's friends, tries to stop her. So she tries to hurt them too, but she's just throwing them off. And then she finally does punch the woman who was on her man. Something like that, right? That looks like what we're saying. 1 successful assault, 2 attempts at attempted assault, which I think was probably just people grabbed her and tried to stop her from beating somebody's ass, and she pushed them away. I don't know. I have no idea, but like that sounds like what that is. So this is a lot. But this is one incident. She's at a club. She's had too much to drink. Somebody's rubbing up all on her man. Now, you should be mad at the man. You should just dump his ass and move on if he's going to let that happen. But that's not what people do. They get mad at the other person. But I don't think this makes her a criminal mastermind. FBI's top 10 most wanted, right? Can you fix this, though? Well, the way you fix this is if you're her boyfriend, you don't let women rub all on you. Now, I've created this scenario. This is fan fiction. We don't know what the real scenario was. Maybe she's just sitting there at the club and she doesn't like the way two people looked at her and went over there and tried to beat their asses. We don't know. But that seems to be what's going on there. Okay, moving on. The one in the middle here looks like an actress I've seen before. She was in Dark Matter. I don't think that's her. It just looks like her. Okay, OWI. What the hell is OWI? Apparently operating while intoxicated. Why do they have so many goddamn abbreviations? We've got OWI, we got DWI, we got DUI. Can we just have one goddamn abbreviation that covers your ass is drunk and you're driving? Why do we have 17 different abbreviations? Why is it operating while intoxicated, driving while intoxicated, driving under the influence? Why? Can we have one effing goddamn abbreviation? Anyway, OWI. That's what my heart said when he saw her. Why did you change tense like that? That's what my heart said when he saw her. That's weird. UWU. You people are weird. The comments are wild in these. Alright. This next chick down here is grinning in a very scary way. Hit her boyfriend with a hatchet while he was sleeping. Holy shit. Look at how cheerful she is. This is her mugshot. You can't really see it here, but if we were to go to the left, it shows the thing where it talks how tall you are. She's also tall, by the way. She's like 5'7", which I really like. But it shows how tall. So this is her mugshot. This isn't some random photo they got of her. This is her mugshot, and she's grinning like she's having the best day of her life. That is even more terrifying than trying to murder her boyfriend with a hatchet while he was sleeping. Holy shit. You think you can fix her? That's what you're telling me. Like, I'm sure he deserved it, but like, goddamn, man. Well, deserve. Like, he would have had to have tried to kill her to deserve it, technically. So, I'm sure he's a piece of shit. We'll put it that way. I don't think anybody deserves to be hatcheted up Lizzie Borden style while they're asleep. But let's delve into the horror of the comments. Felt cute, might delete my boyfriend later. Jesus. I know what that's a reference to. It's an Instagram thing, but, What did he do, though? That's the question, isn't it? We've all attempted to do things we felt differently about, Your Honor. We'll accept supervised probation. I will personally conduct a suspension to please the court. He thinks he can fix her. He wants to cohabitate with this woman. He wants to share a bed with this woman and her hatchet. You dumb sumbitch. Look, man, we all screw up, right? Maybe he called her fat. I mean, I will always say just dump his ass. Whatever he did. I don't know, man. I'm trying to think of, what is something you could do inadvertently? Like, if you're a dick, that's one thing. But there are things we do inadvertently in relationships that hurt people's feelings and we don't realize we've done it, right? Like, maybe we're not enthusiastic about her cooking, or maybe we're later than we thought we were going to be. Maybe we didn't text when we should have. So we're hurting her feelings. You have to ask yourself, is that the kind of thing that would set her off and you wake up with a hatchet in your ass? Your dumbass thinks you can fix her. Holy shit. Look, for me, the biggest detail here is how much she smiled. It's a very pretty smile. She is very pretty. I would definitely ask her out before all this. I don't know, man. The fact that she has this very engaging, endearing smile after what she did in the police station is extremely touching. This is like the Smile movie smile right here. Like, she's about to do something to herself and you're about to get that smile virus. That's the kind of smile she's got right now. So, Jesus. This one, providing false ID to a police officer, possession of alcohol under 21. She's under 21. Okay. And obstruction without violence. Okay, so, I don't see a problem here. Nothing to see here, right? Like, She has a fake ID because she's trying to get drunk and she's under 21. And she was caught she's at the bar trying to order a drink. The bartender doesn't believe it. He calls the police. She shows the ID to the police. He realizes it's fake. Your ass is arrested. Obstruction without violence is like, all right, come on, you're coming with me. She's like, no, I'm not. I don't want to come. And he's like, you are coming. She's like, no, I'm not. But then when he puts his hands on her, she doesn't resist. So it's obstruction without violence. Like, she said she didn't want to go. Or obstruction without violence could also be lying, I guess, if you're lying. Like, who are your parents? XYZ. And then they check, and, that could be obstruction of justice without violence as well, I guess. Anyway, I'm not seeing a real crime here, right? So, this you can fix. This is a teenage idiot trying to get drunk and didn't know how to do it, right? So, not really seeing a problem here. And somebody actually makes a good point here in this comment. I've always believed this. Imagine having to be 21 to consume alcohol, but 18 to be sent to war. You can die in a war, but not be allowed to drink. That is ridiculous. Either raise the war age, which they will never do, or lower the alcohol age, which they could do if they wanted to. Battery, touch, or strike. Touch or strike. Well, if she had struck, they would have had more charges. So I think she grabbed somebody. Maybe even gently. It's like they wanted to leave, she grabbed their arm. And they bitched out and snitched to the police, right? Something like that. So, I mean, batteries, it's bigger than, like, trying to get drunk, admittedly. Okay, here's the last one. We see another smile grin down here. You can't see it yet, but you're about to. Check this out. She's got a big smile. Felony criminal mischief. She totaled her ex-boyfriend's car by putting glitter in the air conditioner, salt in the engine, slashed the tire, cracked the windshield, cracked the rear view mirror, and shattered the car's radio screen. Then she called a tow truck to get the car towed and admitted to the tow truck driver that she did everything. Holy shit. Now, this isn't a hatchet to the throat in bed, so this is lower than that. But the grin is extremely disturbing. And maybe this, people escalate. So maybe next time she's going to do that to your body. Can you fix this? There's some dumbass out there who thinks he can fix this. So, this is a phenomenon in real life is what I'm talking about here. Now, it's a joke Instagram site. It's all love. It's all jokes. But there are people who think they can fix people, right? Like, we know that. Back to the fiction of it all. I think, like I said, I think there's three things going on here. One, there's a real life phenomenon of these morons, including myself, which I've talked about, thinking they can fix crazy. Which, is... If we're talking about real people, we're not really using that terminology. Like, you know what I mean. They think they can fix that, violence. And, again, my situation, she wasn't violent. She was more of a damsel in distress. But I could have went that way if I had met somebody who's violent. And maybe I wouldn't be here right now, So, fortunately, that things played out differently. But we have the real life phenomenon. Then we have the fictional phenomenon of these people are fiction, so they're safe. But we like to imagine, boy, if I was real, I'd make her happy, right? We've got that going on. But I think the third thing is actually the biggest factor in this. Villains are just intrinsically more interesting than heroes are. Or protagonists, right? There's more time spent crafting their characters. There's more time spent on their motivations. Oftentimes, the protagonists, we don't get the motivation of why they're a protagonist. They just want to help people. Midoriya wants to help people. Why? Because he saw All Might when he was a kid? He was inspired? Why specifically? We don't know, because it's like, why do I want to save people? I don't think it's just because I was a dick as a teenager. I think there's just something intrinsically in me wants to help you. I still do, Like, all my life, it's been like give advice to the actors, young filmmakers, help out other reaction channels, give a shout out to channels that have fewer subscribers than me. Just found another one. I'm probably going to be doing that in a day or two. I just like doing it. I just want to do it. I feel compelled, right? Like, there's no motive. I'm not trying to get anything out of it. It's not a tit for tat. Hey, maybe you can shout me out too. It's not that. It's just, I just feel compelled to help. So it's something in me. So if I was a character, could we define what that is? I guess if I was a character, you just make it, oh, well, he was a dick as a teenager. He's trying to, get the red out of his ledger, whatever. Mine wouldn't be red, it'd be more orange, but, you would just do that and be done with it, right? But it's more complicated than that. Like, it's just something that's always been in me, right? It's harder, I think, to define the motivations of protagonists. It's easier to define motivations of villains because they're doing bad things, so you say, okay, these bad things happened to them as a kid, or they saw the world this way because of this, or that, right? This thing happened. And that's why they think, French people are scum. France invaded their village or something when they were a kid, and all French people are scum, so now my motivation is I'm going to destroy France, So we'd lose about 70% of the buttered dishes in the world, so we can't let that happen. So the protagonist just he's just trying to stop the bad thing. Like, you don't need to explain that motivation. France being destroyed is bad, so I'm going to stop the bad thing as the protagonist. The villain needs a reason. Why do they want to destroy France? We have to explain that. In the process of explaining that, we get more information on them. We vibe with them. We can relate to them. Wow, I remember that time France invaded my village too. They do kind of suck, don't they? Like, we can relate to them, right? In some kind of way. Dad ran off and left. Mom, ran off and left or whatever. These are motivations we can understand. And time is spent filling that in. It is interesting. We started this podcast talking about 7 Deadly Sins when I got into it. And they actually do spend a lot of time on motivations because basically these are anti-heroes in 7 Deadly Sins. But they're still protagonists. It is the 7 Deadly Sins. It's not just Meletus. It's all 7 of them, right? And each one of them gets their time to shine in the sun and gets the backstories and all that shit. So there is time spent on that. More so than maybe most anime. Although anime as a genre tends to spend more time on backstory of all characters across the board. That is the thing. I do think, just generally speaking, though, in fiction, and we're not just talking about anime here, we are talking about all fiction, but specific anime, but all fiction. However much time the heroes get, I think the villains get more. So that, I think, is probably the biggest reason, because if you can relate to somebody, you're probably going to want to help them. And it's a very small walk from wanting to help them to I can fix this psycho whack job, right? So, that's what I think's going on here. What do you think's going on here? And who do I specifically think I most want to fix in all of anime? Well, there is that whack job in Steins Gate who only communicates by the phone. She is seriously disturbed. We saw several iterations of her. The one where he took her phone and went outside the door and she was trying to tear the entire wall down to get the phone back. That was terrifying. That was one of the scariest moments in the entire series. Like, dude, just give her a goddamn phone back. Jesus. Terrifying. I can fix her. She's a whack job. She even was violent too, so that that was kind of scary. But my biggest one probably is Lust from Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. I can fix her. If she didn't tear me limb for limb, which she would. But she's probably my biggest I can fix. She was a complete and total whack job. Seemed to enjoy being burned to death. You're effing weird. That's an oldie goodie. Togo is pretty high on the list. If it wasn't for the disgusting ass blood thing, I can't get past that. So she's never going to be in my top 5. Because that's just really, really sick. So moving on to other animation. I'm watching, I just watched an episode of Inside Job. It's really good, but it's got 18 episodes. I've seen 1, so we're not ready to talk about that. Creature Commandos, I can't remember if I've seen 3 or 4 episodes. But I'm about halfway through. I think it's like 7 episodes and I'm about halfway through it. And they've got a very clear format where each episode is centered around one character. So everybody's getting their day in the sun. It's an interesting way to do it, and it's also interesting in that it's very tied into the continuity. I was told I had to watch this season before I watched season 2 of Peacekeeper. So I think something that happens in this season of Creature Commandos is going to affect season 2 of Peacemaker. And what happened in season 1 of Peacemaker impacted this series. I won't give you spoilers, but there was a thing that happened at the end of season 1. I made the mistake of watching the first episode before I finished season 1, but there's a thing that happened at the end of season 1 that ties directly into why the series is even necessary, from an in-universe perspective. And then, so I assume it's all going to be tied together. And then I think there's something also happening with this and Superman, the Superman movie. So I need to see season 2 of Peacemaker before I watch the Superman movie. So I like that. I like that it's all connected. I like that I'm kind of watching it in the order intended. But the art style is not great. I think I'm just used to anime at this point. Western animation is starting to feel a little off kilter to me. But it is very good. The vocal performances are very good. I do wish that they had fewer name actors and more actual voiceover ass actors. Although they've got the name actors they've got like David Harbour playing Frankenstein, and they've got the woman who played Elsa in the Frozen movies playing the Corpse Bride, and there's some other Alan Tudyk. He's a very talented voiceover actor as well as a very talented regular actor, so he's acceptable. And obviously, like I said, the woman who played Elsa she's done a lot of voiceovers, so she's good. David Harbour, I don't buy. He's a great actor. He's a great film actor. I just don't think he's a great voiceover actor. And some of the other people are hit or miss. And I hate the Western ideal where we got to get names. We're not seeing their faces. Who gives a shit who the person is? Can we get a talented voiceover actor? That's all we care about. It's drawn. Whoever your favorite actor is, them being a voiceover doesn't mean anything because you can't see them. So it could be anybody. We just need a good vocal performance. That's all we need. And they just don't understand that. Hollywood thinks you need the names, despite 40 years of history in Japan proving them wrong. It's the story, you moron, and it's the art, you idiot. It's the animation. That's what matters. And then you need good vocal performances. You don't need, flavor of the week celebrity whose name maybe bring 10 extra people into this thing until they realize they can't see the face and they leave because they're bored. It's stupid. It's just such a stupid thing. So this suffers from that. James Gunn is definitely a Hollywood insider, despite what he wants you to think. He's a Hollywood insider for real. So, it is what it is. I think that detracts from the series. Other than that, it's really good. So if you haven't checked it out and you like superhero stories, this is something you should check. It's just 7 episodes. Each one's a half hour. Not a huge time commitment. It's a lot of fun. I'm having a lot of fun with it so far. Okay, now we're ready for my hot take. This one's pretty scorching. And this is where I defend Yu. Making it up as you go along doesn't mean it automatically sucks. I'm so sick of this being levied and thrown around as the reason why you suck. And by the way, if a person says that they made Lost up as they went along, I'm blocking you. You're getting blocked. Because, that's not what happened, and people have been saying that's not what happened for 20 years. There's a mountain of evidence that that's not what happened. If you say it, you're intentionally trolling and you're getting your ass blocked. Well, not really. I don't really block people, but you're an asshole. We'll just put it that way. You're an asshole and nobody likes you because you're a troll. But no, it's they're saying this about Yu. Yes, he made it up as he went along. It's just a form of storytelling is all it is. It's just a form of storytelling. That's all this is. It's okay, there's many ways to farm a field, okay? You can go out there and you can push one of those little manual plows by yourself into the dirt and just push it all the way down for an acre, turn around and push it back and spend 10 days doing that, manually pushing this plow up and down the field. Or you can have a plow attached to an ox, and you can whip the ox, and you can make the ox pull it up and down. Or you can have a tractor that has its own form of a plow, and it turns the earth, and you can drive that back and forth. Maybe there's even another way. But those are 3 ways to farm, okay? None of them are intrinsically better or worse than any of the other forms. There are probably downsides to each one of these. One of the downsides is, you get exhausted, you can be injured, and it takes forever if you push it yourself. One of the downsides of the ox is you have to take care of the ox. Maybe they're very expensive. They eat a lot of food. They shit all over the place, which may be good, may be bad for a farm. Like maybe you want a different kind of fertilizer. And then the tractor has a lot of upkeep. It's got gas. It's very expensive in the first place. And maybe it's emissions, the smoke that comes out of the exhaust is harmful to plants. I don't know. There's downsides and there's pros and cons to everything. Every type of farming. But none of these are intrinsically better or worse than any of the others. It depends on what your priorities are. If your priority is, I don't have any money and I have a lot of time, then maybe you pushing it yourself is the best way to plow the field. If your priority is, I need to do this as fast as possible and I have a shit ton of money, then you get the tractor. If you're somewhere in between and you love working with the animals, then you use the ox, right? None of these ways of farming are intrinsically better or worse than any other way. And that's what you sound like. To say the ox sucks because tractors are better at every situation reveals your stupidity. It's situational. It depends on each individual farmer's situation. Most people are using tractors today. Maybe everybody's using tractors today in the first world. Now, in the third world, maybe they're still using oxen. They probably are. Or horses or whatever. Bulls, So, it depends on the situation. It's the same thing here. Making it up as you go along is one form of storytelling. Really, really intricate outlines is another form of storytelling where you know every story beat before you start writing, before you put pen to paper. Most writers are hybrids at sliding scale. You're here, you have no plan whatsoever, you only know what the character's name is when you write the first sentence. And over here is every single detail is plotted out before you write the first sentence. Most writers are somewhere in between. Matter of fact, all writers are somewhere. And I don't think any writers at either extreme. George R. R. Martin is famously a gardener, not an architect. He still plans some things out. He planned out the Red Wedding books ahead of time because he was foreshadowing books ahead of time. He plans things out, even though he's a gardener. So the scale being planning, he's probably right here because over here is meticulously planned and way over there is don't plan shit. So George R. R. Martin's probably right here. I'm about right here too. That's the way I write. Typically, I'll have a scene, say I'm in scene 5. I may know something that's going to happen in scene 10, and that's about it. I don't know how it's going to end. I don't even know how it's going to, be in the middle for the most part. That's the first draft, right? Now, there is a difference here. The way I write is I shit out the first draft. I don't know what the hell's going to happen anytime during that first draft for the most part. I have a couple scenes. Okay, wait a minute. We're going to get rid of the helicopter like this. I know that. So let me work towards that. Other than that, I don't know shit. I don't know what's going to happen after the helicopter. I don't know jack shit. I write each scene as it comes, and it comes to me. I wrote a script recently, actually. And so it comes to me when it comes to me, right? So that's the first draft. Most people don't see the first draft. Then I go through and I'm like, okay, now that I finished it, now that I know what's going to happen here at the end, let me set this up here. Let me do this here. Let me take out this scene that ended up going nowhere. Let me remove this character that ended up going nowhere. Or let me consolidate these two characters. Let me split these two characters apart. They can do this. All right, cool. Now I'm good. The second draft is where I do the real writing. The first draft, I'm just making that shit up as I go along. Now, if I had to stick with the first draft, I could do it. Because that's what's happening here with Yu. Is his first draft is going out there because he had a weekly deadline and he was under pressure, just like Charles Dickens back in the day. We talked about Charles Dickens before. He would write his novels one chapter at a time. And you started to see, as he got more experience with this, he would write scenes and he would write characters early on, not knowing, they had no function early on. But he may need them later. Like, he has a character in chapter 2 who works at the docks. They come in, they have small talk with your main character for a couple minutes. They mention they work at the docks. They mention they have a mother. They mention they like the girl across the street, and then they leave. Half the time, you'd never see the character again. Half the time, that character would show up at the end of the novel helping you. Like, because the girl across the street happens to be the sister of your girlfriend, he's going to help you, and he's at the docks so he can smuggle you through the docks to the ship and you can get out of there. Or whatever. Like, this is just an example. So, if you hadn't introduced that character in chapter 2. You get to the end of the book, you have to introduce a new character. You clearly pulled this out of your ass. You're like, okay, here's this new character. We're buddies. Okay, now help us get out of the city. It feels lazy and rushed and by the seat of your pants and ass pull, which it is, but it doesn't feel that way if you use a character you introduced back in chapter 2. So he would see him do this. If you read his novels, you'll see characters show up half the time they never show up again. Half the time they have a purpose later on. In both cases, he was just creating new characters in case he needed them later, because he couldn't write the whole novel at once. He couldn't write it all at once and then do another pass on it. So which is what he should have been doing. It's amazing they turned out as good as they did. But that's the same thing the Yu author's doing. He doesn't have time to sit out there and do a first draft and then go back and do a second draft. If he had done a second draft, we would have seen a very different story, I believe. But the story as presented is fine. This is what I'm saying. Just because you make it up as you go along doesn't automatically mean it sucks. It's just a way of writing. It's one way of writing. It's neither good nor bad. There is no intrinsic quality to that style of writing. There's just how good is the writer and how good is the story they made. This particular case, I think the only real problem is some things are dragged out when they didn't need to be. And then some characters are introduced that didn't really need to be introduced. Like for instance, those 3 guys that, introduced us to the idea of domains. You didn't need all 3 of them. I think he did the thing where it's like, let me introduce these characters. I think I'm going to use them a lot. And I think they can pay off later. And ended up realizing he didn't need them. And so he sidelined them. That's a clear-cut case of writing by the seat of your pants, making the story a little worse. But it's not a big deal. They're interesting characters. And, in real life, not everybody we run into is useful to us. So it does make the world feel more populated. And it does make it feel like, okay, not everybody has to have a damn point in a story. So, I think it's actually to the benefit of the story, actually. I say it made it a little worse, but that's just in one way. In another way, if we look big picture, I think what it did was it makes the world feel more populated and just fuller. Not everybody is, they don't feel like plot devices because they don't function for the plot. They just function for world building. So, it makes the world feel more full. So I think they're fine, and I think it worked. So that's a case where you have a really good writer who knows how to write by the seat of his pants and knows how to make it up as he goes along and do a good job at it. Levying that as an insult is, to me, I just think, cheap and easy and weak, right? Like, you can criticize the writing without saying the writing sucks because he made up as he went along. The story is either good or bad because the writer is either good or bad or is making good or bad choices. Most writers are good. Like, if we see the writing's going to be fairly good. We don't see the bad writers because nobody produces them. Nobody publishes their work. Nobody makes shows out of bad writers, for the most part. Twilight got made in the movies, but for the most part, we don't see bad writing brought before our eyes because there's a vetting process. So, generally speaking, it's going to be decent writers who made bad choices. That's why a story's bad. But I don't think just automatically make it up as you go along is a bad thing. I'm tired of being used as an insult. There's just certain things that just come out of people's mouths that are so repetitive. We don't even analyze what's being said anymore. Media literacy gets thrown around. Media literacy is important when you're trying to understand the themes. Somebody watching a show while scrolling on their phone and having somebody they're talking to at the same time missing important details and then going online and criticizing the show because they missed those details. That has nothing to do with media literacy. They have a damn phone in their hand. They're talking to a friend. They're eating chips. They spilled a drink in their lap when they revealed that the killer's mother is the one who actually did the killing. So, and they're like, well, what was the point of the mother character? She was the damn killer, you moron. Oh, media literacy is dead. No, that ain't media literacy, you moron. Most of the time, people levy these things, and they're not using it correctly. Media literacy, having a lack of media literacy, is like not understanding that Moby Dick is about revenge and obsession. That's a lack of media literacy. A lack of media literacy is not understanding that Jekyll and Hyde were both evil, not just one of them. It's not about the good side of him and the bad side of him. That's a lack of media layers. Lack of paying attention is not understanding obvious details that were said in the episode. And then you go online looking like an idiot. But so people want to throw these things out there. And they talk about Mary Sue's when people aren't Mary Sue's. And just they throw these labels out there and they just use them all willy-nilly. This is one of those. Just make it up as it go along. Look, it's okay to not like something. You don't have to lie about it. It's not bad because you made up. Like, now, there are cases where something is bad because they made up as it went along. Because if they'd had another pass, it would have been a good story. We could find those cases, but this is used way too much. I've seen it 4 times this week about 4 different things. One of them was Yu. So I will defend Yu there. I don't think, I'm not finished with it. I don't think it's going to be in my top 10. It's probably not even in my top 20. But it was a very entertaining time. Anybody says this story sucks is an idiot. And anybody says it sucks because they were making it up as they went along. Those people don't have media literacy. All right. Well, anyway, that's my hot take. It's just do better, try harder. Let's put it that way. How about you try harder? This is my current anime watching ranks. I've dropped a couple of shows because I finished with them. I am going to be getting back into JoJo next week, but I took a week off because I just didn't have time to do the podcast. And I didn't have time to do JoJo. I had time to do half of what was left of Fortress Macros. That's still at the bottom, but it's good. It's obviously filler, but it's still good. I've got 3 left. I'm watching today or tomorrow, probably tomorrow. After the wedding. But that's at the bottom. Yu's next. Not really a value judgment. That's just where it is. We've talked about that a lot. Boruto's next. I'm enjoying where we're at with Boruto. I'm starting to get that feeling I get when we're starting to get towards the end of a series because nothing else has been animated. Only half of the manga has been animated. I don't know if we're ever getting the other half. I don't know what the update is on that, but that's starting to make me a little sad. But that's good. 7 Deadly Sins is now in 5th place because this has been excellent. I don't know if I have another season to watch of this. I think that I may only have 4 episodes left, and that's it. So I may be talking about the wrap up very soon. That's one of my segments I don't always do, but that may be the next podcast where we wrap that up. JoJo's next. Like I said, I haven't watched it in a week, but what I've seen up to that point is really good. They have a way. The author has a way of turning adversaries into allies. I've started to notice that. I can start to see it coming, so I really like that. And it came true, and so far it's worked out really well. He's executed that very well. New show is number 3. Garden of Sinners. It's a mystery box show told out of chronological order. And I've seen a lot of people hating on this show because they're saying that it's too confusing and nothing makes sense. This is a show you have to be patient with. I think you have to watch the whole thing. I'm not trying to theory craft. And I'm not really trying to obsess over the mysteries. I'm just enjoying the characterization. I'm enjoying the ride. I'm enjoying the characterization. I assume it's all going to make sense at some point. I'm trying to put pieces together where I can. So far, we don't have enough information. So, once I get to the end of the series, this may be something where I actually go back and rewatch it again on my own time just to fully understand it. If I do that, I will then present my write-up, mental write-up here, my final conclusions. But I'm really enjoying this show. This is another sponsored show. It is fantastic. One Piece is next. We're week to week now. But it's still excellent, even though it's week to week. I don't like the stalling tactic they put in. I've gotten some pushback on that. I'll be addressing that in the 11:44 rewind Q&A video in a couple days. But I don't like it. I hate it when shows stall. They could have executed the stall a lot better than they did. But so far, so good. It's really good right now. Gintama, back to number 1. And mainly because the movie was fantastic. It was really good, very funny. The ending sequence was some of the most laughing I've done in a long time. All these characters, every single goddamn character wanted to be in the movie. And the next movie is just really, that was a really funny sequence. The actual story was great. There was a moment I keep thinking about where we've got Red. She's standing there. There's a woman comes up behind her, puts a gun to her head, and then they fade to black and they fire. And it's just cracks. Every time I think about it, I laugh. I've laughed like 10 times this week thinking about it. It was a bait and switch. They didn't shoot her in the head. But there was something about the look on her face, the fact she didn't see what was coming, the person behind her looked pissed off. They had the gun. They do the cheesy fade out with the gunshot. I was just dying laughing, man. Really funny. That's just one of the moments that's really funny. The whole thing was great. The action sequences are great. The fact they had a movie budget for the action sequences. I really want to compare the action in the actual TV series to the movie. I'm going to do that before I watch any more episodes. But, man, just spectacular. So they're back to number one with their big movie budget. We'll see what happens next week as I do the next episode. But we don't have a whole lot of time to figure out what the next podcast topic is going to be. So I may just have to do one myself. But I'm going to hopefully have this out today. It's before 11 a.m. on Saturday. But I have to go to the rehearsal. God knows how long the hell that's going to take. So I'm trying to get as much done as I can before I leave for that. And then I'll have a little bit of time when I get back to do some things. But we'll see. But I'm going to try to have a poll out tomorrow for the topic. But then the topic for the bonus episode is going to be something I do pick myself. And it'll be interesting. I'm going to be recording that in a couple days as well. But that's what we're doing. That's what it's looking like. I'm going to be doing a lot of podcasting over the next 9 to 10 days. And then I should be covered for a while. You know, I'll have the bonus in my pocket. We won't be late again. So, you know, here's hoping. Because October is going to be a bitch. I may need 2 backups. But hopefully not. I like to stay current.